very topic in our career readiness series, which is maximizing your market, navigating the nuances of hireability and employability by Jillian Low. And what are we gonna discover in this session? So in today's sessions, we will delve into the subtle yet significant differences between hireability and employability. What are these concepts? What's the difference? We will also learn the essential skills, tools, and strategies needed to enhance both aspects of one's professional persona. We will also understand external influences that play a pivotal role in shaping one's career trajectory, and we will gain actionable insights and adjustments necessary to overcome these barriers. And for this amazing topic, we have Jillian Low. Jillian Low, our speaker. Let's meet Jillian. Perhaps you already know her. Jillian is the Chief Strategic Officer at Virtual Internships. In her role, she leads in creating accessible pathways to employment for post-secondary learners and has supported the facilitation of over 10,000 remote internships with more than 13,000 global host companies. Jillian is committed to navigating the intersection of work and education, adapting to workforce changes, and leveraging technology's growing influence. Living the digital nomad life, she advocates for a hybrid work future, blending in-person collaboration with opportunities remote work offers. So thank you very much, Jillian. Welcome to our new brand Career Readiness Essential Series, and thanks for being here with us today.
Hello, and thank you so much for joining. I always say that just by joining, you have shown yourself apart from the rest, that you've gone above and beyond, giving your time and energy to improve your understanding of employability, your own skills, and your own career management, making yourself more employable and hireable by being here. And so today we are going to discuss hireability and employability. It's something that's near and dear to my heart. I've been supporting workforce development and the transition from secondary school to post-secondary pathways of success for the past 18 years, and something that brings me a lot of joy. I've done it worldwide. And as Mirta says, I am currently a digital nomad, so I have no permanent home base, and I move where whims and desires or work requires. And today I am calling in from Mexico, so bright and early at 7 a.m. And to confirm, employability and hireability is a really great concept. And I started thinking about it because I looked at my own journey, and I kind of realized in 2024, in this year, I am the Chief Strategy Officer of Virtual Internships. If my boss came to me and did an assessment or a feedback or an appraisal, they would look at the 6 years worth of data and insights that I have given to this company since I started working in 2018. I would be appraised annually, looking at my performance aligned to my KPIs, key performance indicators. And I would be able to demonstrate that I was adapting to changes in technology. Although AI did not exist when I got this job, and now it does exist and impacts my job daily. The workforce, pandemics, I didn't think COVID could exist when I got this job, and hello, COVID does exist. Geography and more to complete my job to the best of ability. And I've been able to leverage my past degrees as well as consistent upskilling and knowledge capture to try to become the best CSO I possibly can. And so when I look at now, I'm assessed by my skills, and it's wide and it's large and it's an ever-changing rubric. And it's based on an immense amount of data. If my boss came to me and said, hey, I really want to assess your full career with us, 6 years of data of full-time work, that's significant. But when I was hired in 2018, I was hired for a different job title, and I was assessed by 3 things: a resume CV, how my resume and CV aligned to the job I was specifically applying to, my interview skills, and how I could verbally align myself to that job and company. I needed to show past experiences and technical skills that I had gained, and they were gleaned at a snapshot of the moment of hiring based on the precise needs of that moment. It wasn't 6 years of all encompassing. It was maybe a day or two of what does Jillian have and what does she have right now? And was I able to leverage my network recommended for the role and allow my past experience to shine? Really, the assessment on my candidacy was based on a very, very tiny peek into what I am, based on one sheet review of my past CV and my interview capabilities. So then I could think, well, we have all these learners. We have amazing learners on our program, and we really have this opportunity to look at them. And so if I look at this learner, they have a bachelor's degree out of science, and perhaps looking at the past 4 years of their education involvement, they have great grades, excellent outcomes of all their courses they participated, extracurricular activities, they did an internship, they have references from a professor, they are doing amazing. They've shown resilience and adaptability, choosing to work in an in-demand and growing field of study. They're working extremely hard despite the change of curriculum, a busy personal life, as well as going through COVID. And they can leverage the skills recently gained at their university for up-to-date insights and outcomes of the industry. Reviewing all of the above in that 4-year span, by all accounts, this candidate has shown immense employability skills. They have skills, experiences, a choice degree, and initiative. They have employability. But when I look at their application and looking at the role, I'm looking for somebody who wants to be a data engineer. And I get their resume CV, but it hasn't been reviewed for the job specification I put out as a hiring manager. And it was not adapted to show alignment. And skills weren't aligned to the job specification or job description, where they have past experience, they haven't leveraged their network gained from the degree, extracurricular, internship, or education to get their application to the front of the pile. And so when I look at this candidate who's applying for the role, specifically of data engineer, despite the immense ability markers that the candidate had, by all accounts, they're not going to get hired. In fact, they lack hireability as a whole. And this is what got me thinking about it. And so if I have amazing, talented, and strong job seekers who are demonstrating employability skills, but not key skills to be hired, am I missing a crucial part of the training Virtual Internships provides interns, that colleges provide their learners, and more? And this really got me thinking about the idea of employability versus hireability. Now, let me be very clear. If you Google this right now, you're not going to find a lot of internal research. It's a concept that I have really coined, that I am continuing to do further research and studies on, but it's an idea that I'm trying to figure out how best get my interns on our program hired post-program, and to stop thinking so much in employability that they miss the markers of hireability. So if we look at the concept, employability is very, very well defined. It encompasses an individual's capability to not only gain initial employment, but also maintain and advance within their career, adapting to new opportunities and challenges as they arise. And it signifies the amalgamation or the combination or the addition of skills, knowledge, and personal attributes that render an individual appealing to a wide range of employers over the course of their profession. Essentially, due to changing technology, you changing personally with your passions, your focus, and your ability to work, the world, geography, and globalization changing, your job will not stay the same for a long time. It might stop at 10 years, it might stop at 2 years, and you might have to upskill, reskill, or pivot to get your next job. And employability is going to carry you through all of that. It really transcends the mere acquisition of just one job, because it really underscores the capacity to you manage your career path proactively, and to demonstrate resilience in the face of setbacks, adaptability to changing environments, and the continual commitment to learning and self-improvement. It's really characterized by a dynamic set that includes, but it's not limited to, educational qualifications, technical proficiency, effective communication, teamwork capabilities, critical thinking, creativity, flexibility, and more, all used to navigate the complexities of the modern job market. It's big, it's huge. Employability is an amazing skill. But hireability is important, but it's more narrowly focused. It's not this big, wide, encompassing thing that's going to impact each and every day of your life. It's more focused on your individual's attractiveness to employers for a specific job opening at a specific time. because all of those things are going to come together to very much change how you succeed, right? A specific time might make the job market more available or less available. The specific job opportunity might make you more hireable or not. And it's really about how likely an employer is to choose a particular candidate for a job. Factors influencing hireability include an individual's specific skills, both technical and soft, your past experiences, and qualifications. Not all of them, the ones that specifically match job requirements, as well as the current demand for those skills in the broader job market. It can be influenced by how well you present yourself on your resume, cover letter, or interview, as well as your network and connections within the industry. And externally, it can be impacted by the job market, your location, and general tides. So if we narrow it down to easier, less words, employability is about adaptability, flexibility, and resilience, when hireability is really focused on communication, personal brand, and selling. You want skills and knowledge, which is a combination of soft and hard skills, professional development, your commitment to continuous learning and skills development, and marketability, your qualifications and experiences that are valued across various sectors and various time points. And by combining all these things, you get the outcome that you could become a capable individual ready to fulfill various and multiple job roles, transitions between careers, and thrive in a diverse working experience. But hireability, you really need more tangible tools. You need a strong resume and CV. And most young graduates don't have that. They can't pass the applicant tracking system, or they have this resume CV that was created for them, when really a resume CV is about the job you are applying to. You don't have a strategic job search. You might be not knowing where to start on your job search, or you're just applying to any job. And fun fact, if you apply to 3 jobs at Facebook within 3 months, your ranking goes down, right? There are different things that you can't just pay and apply to everything. You do have to be very strategic about that job search. And effective interviewing, the ability to really align your response to company needs. Often, once again, interviews, the person's just talking about themselves, but they haven't connected the dot about how they will be helpful to the company and perfect for the role that they are applying for. But if you do have these tangible skills of strong resume CV, strategic job search, effective interviewing, along with communication, personal branding, your outcome is a strategic approach to job searching, making you a top candidate for hiring needs. So once again, employability is this broad encompassing, and hireability is this great strategic approach. Now, let me be very clear. They're not totally separate from themselves. They actually overlap. But while hireability may get you the job, employability is what keeps you moving forward in your career. And by focusing on both and balancing the needs of both, individuals can not only secure the positions that they are a good fit for in their current skills and experiences, but also navigate and progress within the job market over the long term, adapting to new challenges and seizing opportunities for growth. So let's look at it with some mind, right? So pathways to employment are wide and varied, and there are multiple things that really impact it. So this is very much a simplification. But if we consider what country you live in, what to study, where to study, did you do internships or experiential learning? Were you able to connect with career services? How many jobs do you apply to when you're in this job search? Do you customize your resume CV? Do you reach out to your network for support? All of these things can really impact the outcomes to your hireability. So let's say in what country we picked Germany, and this one is accounting. They went to a large public university instead of online or small private. You did an internship in the area of your study. You did connect with your services once in your final year, not throughout, but at the end. Each week, you apply to 20 jobs. You never customize your resume CV. And when asked, do you reach out to your network for support? You kind of think, what network? And if we look at these all lined up, right, they all have various statistical outcomes based on their things. So if we look at what country, Germany youth employment rate is 5.75%. It's a 1.5% decline from 2021, but all as a whole, it's not very high. It's actually very attainable. More important, no country has 100% youth unemployment. So the idea is that even if there is higher unemployment, you should be able to strategically improve your hireability to stand out over candidates. The number one way to do that is your network. But in this case, Germany, youth unemployment, it's green. You're actually doing great. Accounting, I'd mark as yellow. Harvard's review estimates that 44.6% of work done in financial services is exposed to AI, and AI taking over some of that work. But also have current US growth for accountants is 4%. It's the same as all other occupations. And so it's actually growing, right? It's doing well. And so there's still a job market there, even though long-term, you want to make sure that you are able to pivot should AI impact this industry significantly. You've picked a large university to study, and ultimately, you're great anywhere. I gave you 3 options, but degrees, regardless from where they are, have substantial employment impact and return on investment still today. There's called a college wage premium or a college wealth premium. You look at it various ways. It is still higher than those who don't have a degree. And so it's very significantly impressive if you go to a degree anywhere, but it actually doesn't matter if you are a fully online person, you're doing great. Experiential learning, if they did an internship in their study, this is definitely a green. 65% of employers prefer to have candidates who have relevant work experience, such as internships. For those completing an internship, paid interns average 1.61 compared to 9.9 and 0.7. They're all getting more job offers than if you didn't do an internship. Moreover, if you look at if you connected to career services, learners engaged with career services at least once during their degree receive 1.24 job offers, compared to 1 who opted not to. Statistically speaking, if you connect with career services, you are more likely to get a job post-graduation. This is absolutely green. It's impacting your hireability. If we look at how jobs you apply for, it's a red. Uh-oh. It is estimated that you should apply for 2 to 5% application to interview success rate. Meaning if you apply to jobs, you should expect at max 1 interview. The odds aren't in your favor of getting a job. You have not actually strategically managed the job search and applied to enough jobs. You're not very hireable in that sense. Moreover, best practice would assume that if you say you never customize your CV, you're doing something terrible. It is recommended that you always customize your resume CV, making it resonate better with the ATS, the applicant tracking system, the computer that reads your resume, as well as hiring managers, the person who reads your resume, alike. This doesn't mean you have to start from scratch and create a resume each and every time, but it means that you need to take a look at the job description and make sure that you're highlighting the best and most relevant experience that you have aligned to that specific job search. I, as a hiring manager, do not have time to read your 2-page resume and find the content that is relevant. You, the candidate, must show me what is relevant. And finally, did you reach out to your network? Well, honestly, if you say network, it's very crucially a challenge because it is estimated that 70% of roles are filled through networking. Even more, a lot of those roles are never put. You will never see them. You will never get a chance to apply. They just went to their network and found. Now, remember, networking can be proactive. It's not about who you know, it's about who you connect with. And I think this is the hardest thing that I ever learned about networking. I thought networks had to be friends. I thought I had to be close to them. I thought I had to meet them in person for me to capture them and include them in my network. No, networking is very much just who you have connected with in the past and resonated with. And it can be a simple LinkedIn post, a simple LinkedIn message. That can be a chat through a webinar. You can gain a network just by being in this webinar and introducing yourself, being on LinkedIn, following each other's journeys, recommending each other's jobs. All of those are networks very easily gained. It is not this hurdle of friendship, because friendship's a whole different. Networks is this very easy, quick, and easy transition and transaction of professionals connecting with professionals in a very low stakes game. So ultimately, when we look at this, you can see that there's lots of factors. And I think a lot of learners will say, well, I went to a different degree or I went to one country and more. And those can impact it. But when I'm talking about hireability, really these last three things that so many learners get wrong and is really crucial is to stopping them hired. So another way to look at it is we have this graph, right? And if on the way to the left, we have no control. You don't impact it. Unfortunately, you can't change those surroundings. But if we go to the right, you have total control. You can do each and every one of these activities and it will improve your hireability or employability. And at the top, it's more employable. On the bottom, it's more hireable. So it means in the middle, there's that overlap, right? When I talk about hireability and employability being so close. So I have this whole list of what the individual controls in the job market. Very similar to the list I just looked at, but full control, I would say you have full control of your committee and initiative. You have full control of engaging in career services. Once again, statistically enhances your chances of getting a job after and graduation. You have full control of your job search strategy and skills. You have full control of how many jobs you apply for and what type of jobs you apply for. You learner has full control of how you use the tools or guidance on offer. Globally, support is available for career services, but let me be very clear. Also, career services existing today on TikTok. It's really rising to the occasion. I follow so many people who give me advice on how to apply for a job on, well, I'm a millennial Instagram, but it's TikTok through Instagram, right? And these tools are in full control of you, the learner who wants to engage with them. You have some control over where you study because it can impact who, if you can afford it, if you can get the visa and more, as well as your background and grades. What to study, yes, you do have control over it, but you do have to get accepted to the program. And if you have limited geographic mobility, you might be stuck in studying something that is limited to your area, even though online is very much opened up. And you have some control over completing experiential learning, right? That's learning through experience. That's an internship, project-based work, and more. And that's because there is limited offerings. Virtual internships exist strictly because not the whole world wasn't getting an internship. So we created a new pathway for learners who are having struggles with that. But that you have some control in doing that, but there are limitations. And finally, you have no control of what country you're in. It's a birthright lottery. You were simply born there. You didn't get to choose prior to that. You might have no control over the local job market. This will fluctuate and change and increase and decrease. You have control over your family economic background, your ethnicity, or gender. And while we cannot control who wins the birthright lottery or how inequities in the world contribute significantly to hiring, we can work to create better access and better supports to ideally create lasting behavior and trend shifts. So while you have no control, hopefully over your career, you gain more control over all of those things. And so if I map out all of those things to total control and no control, we just have a significant amount of things that you impact in hireability. So if you look at this bottom right quadrant, you have total control of the size of your professional network. You don't have full control of who is your professional network, but you have total control of the size. It is you proactively engaging in webinars like this, attending network events, reaching out to people on LinkedIn. You have control over that. You have total control over engaging in career services. They're there for you. And like I said, they're there in a lot of different ways. While there is the traditional career services at your university, and I implore you all to take advantage of that, there's other ways to do it. Virtual Internships offers tons of coaching and guidance throughout it. It's a form of career services. TikTok, like I said, has videos and more. You also have full control of your ability to prepare for an interview and practice. I have been to several interviews over the last 10 years. I have guessed 90% of the questions that are asked of me because it is all just strategic. You know, by looking at the job description, what they're looking for, so what questions they might ask, and you can prepare the questions. It's a pretty simple formula. It's actually not going in blind. It's just using your job description as a tool. You have full control over the resume CV you adapt to use, what types of jobs you apply for, and how many jobs you apply for, and your job search strategy and skills. You also have total control over seeking mentorship, engagement with upskilling, proactivity, and your initiative that you show, and your focus on human skills, all which help hireability, ultimately sitting in that employability quadrant. And once again, you don't have control over the increased use of AI in the workforce, industry standards, or ability for a job to occur remotely, as well as visa regulations, market, and more. But that means when we're looking at hireability, we need to focus on what you do have control over to improve those to the best of their abilities so that we can rise above the challenges of what we have no control. So once again, when we look at things that impact employability, you need to engage in continuous learning. And I think that's quite difficult. We'll call it medium because you have to enroll courses or workshops and you need the time. You need to expand your professional network. I'm going to say that's medium difficulty as well. Yes, you can do it pretty simply LinkedIn, but I get nervous at networking events. I still get nervous reaching out. It still takes me a little bit to get the confidence. So that is why it's medium difficult, because you're usually the biggest barrier to your ability to network. But the network is there, so that's easy. And because of the globalized and remote nature of work, it's there even if you never want to leave your home. You just have to strategically do it in a remote setting. You also do have two difficult things that will impact employability. You need a practical experience. You need competitive and requiring application effort and commitment to the role. You need to pursue internships, volunteer projects, and more. And this is difficult. Getting that first job can sometimes be the hardest job. They always say, as soon as you have a job, multiple other jobs will come along. But when you're looking for a job, it feels like a drought. I've been unemployed after my graduate degree. It was for 6 months. And while I did ebbs and flows and contracts and more, it was painful. I applied to like 410 jobs, an Excel sheet. That was really hard. And then once I got that job, 4 other offers came along and I thought, well, I panicked for no reason, but that was the hardest 6 months of my life, right? It's very difficult to do that. More importantly, it's really difficult to build a mentality for adaptability. We are changing at a rate we've never seen before. Technology is making us change, globalization, climate change, and more. And so it's difficult to always be adaptable. We as humans don't really like change. You can feel it sometimes when someone presents change and you're like, oh, I'm gonna do it. Well, your first initial reaction was the grunt, right? You weren't happy about it. So being able to cultivate flexibility in your approach to your career development, preparing to pivot or transfer skills to new roles, or being open to the idea that you wanted this, but now you're going over here is hard, but it's really, really important is long-term employability. But the good news is impacting and hireability, I have no difficult ratings, right? You need to tailor your resume and CV and cover letter, medium, but once you get a hang of it, it makes it very simple. More importantly, there's a lot of tools out there to create resumes these days. You need to practice your interview skills, once again, medium, but there's some really amazing tools. You can put your job description into ChatGPT and say, can you give me 20 questions that might be asked in an interview? And they'll give you those 20 questions. Now you can put in answers, right? You don't want to ask for the answers to the questions because then they won't be real. They won't be native to you. What you'll want to do is provide answers and ask ChatGPT to maybe refine or help you expand or give ideas of other things to talk about, but you'll get those answers. And you're just practicing in front of a mirror, going over the questions, doing things in a star, right? So you want to do your situation, your task, your actions, and your results, making it really focused, not long-winded, and you'll be brilliant. You also have 2 really easy things to do in your hireability. 1, stay informed of industry trends. Follow people on LinkedIn, follow companies on LinkedIn, get a couple newsletters. These are really easy, but it's really important. And build a professional online presence. Once again, it can be tricky just because of your nerves, but you should have a dynamic LinkedIn that you log into at least once weekly, engaging posts. And you could potentially, if you're in tech or front-end development, have a personal website or portfolio, and you can really set this up to shine. You should have online presence. It should be strong, dynamic, and helping you build your network today, even if you're not applying for a job. Let me ask you, when we look specifically at hireability, there's lots of challenges that I find most learners are in. So the first thing I'm going to do, ask everybody who is currently actively seeking a job to just raise your hand. It's an action, just reaction. So just raise your hand, your little emoji hand to anyone who's actively seeking a job. Don't worry. A lot of you are in education, so you're not actively seeking a job. So that's okay as well. That means you want to be focusing on your employability skills, getting that internship experience, which you great, as well as building that personal presence online and getting that network. But to the 5 learners who are actively seeking a job, usually one of these 5 things are happening, right? So I'm going to lower all the hands and I'm going to ask anyone who is having a challenge of they're just unsure of where to start looking for a job, right? It's hard, you don't know where to. And that can be really tricky, right? There's places that jobs are posted and it's really expensive to post. So I think a lot of people just assume that one job will go to all the job boards and post because they want as much visualization. Actually, it costs the company a significant amount of money to post on LinkedIn, to post anywhere, right? There are some free, but because so many people are posting, you'll get dragged to the bottom. So people have very strategic ways to post. And once again, the most common thing that job posters do is they use their network. So a lot of times they're not posted anywhere but on a LinkedIn post. Like someone just said, hey, I have a job. And if you follow that person or follow someone that person follows, that network, you'll be able to get it. Now, who has difficulty finding relevant jobs to apply to, right? So they know where to start looking for jobs, but they just can't find relevant jobs to apply to. Perfect. And this is a lot with your job search strategy. One, you might need a coaching call to talk what jobs you actually want, what's that career management plan, what you're looking for. 2, you might want to start learning about how to read a job description. And we can have a session at another time, but your job description is your map and your guide to acing your application and your interview. But it's also your guide to know whether you should apply to it. Once again, you should not apply to every job. You should not just be like click, 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 and mass apply. They should be custom resumes, but also the job should mirror your skills and mirror the career path you want to go to. And finally, who applies to many jobs but just doesn't get invited to first interview? Ukamaka, I feel you. When I was unemployed after my graduate degree, like I said, I had an Excel sheet and it was just me with all the jobs I was applying to, but I wasn't getting a first interview. And that could be for various reasons. One, you might be having the wrong resume or tool. If you apply to 20 jobs and you get called back, you need to look at your resume and restart and figure out what is going right and wrong, doing different tests and more to figure out the best resume for yourself. Other challenges that I definitely have seen is that you've been invited to first interviews, but you don't progress further, which means we need to work on your interview technique. And others have been in the final round stage of hiring, but ultimately not selected for a role. And this happens. There are just times where it comes down to a really hard decision and you're a great candidate. And there's just this one little sliver that made the other person go. Once again, if you have made it to the final round stage of an interview, that's amazing. It means you will get into another interview round another time. But potentially it just means that there might have just been a lack of alignment and maybe it wasn't a job for you. You've missed the ability to align yourself culturally to the job that it's looking for. So looking at these challenges, I can break down a couple of the things wrong and how to fix it real quick for anybody looking for a job. And anyone who is actively learning but would like to improve their hireability in the future, do take this in consideration. So first, if you're having issues of where to start looking for jobs, what's probably happening is one, just lack of initiative. There are a ton of out there, especially in the technical fields. Skilled labor, there's a shortage, right? So companies are having a hard time finding employers. I know that sounds great, but it is true. And even in your geography, more companies are looking to other remote workers in different countries to make sure that they can fill those gaps. So there's a way and a path forward, and it could just be a lack of initiative if you don't know where to start. You have an insufficient use of resources. Maybe you haven't sought help from the career services of which are available to you, or haven't read the virtual internship guides of starting the job search, and your coaching call, watch the TikTok, right? You're not using those resources. And potentially the biggest barrier is you might have no clear direction. If you haven't created a goal or plan, you might see a job, but just not know that you want that job, right? So you might need to create a career management plan, a job search, and a goal. This can very readily be done during your coaching call, during your internship. Coaching calls are so valuable. I meet with a professional coach outside of virtual internship once every 2 weeks. It costs me an arm and a leg, but I find that it helps me work through workforce nuances, set goals, and more. You get 2 coaching calls that are just one-on-one with you. And so if you have no clear direction, use that time to talk about it and create a plan for the next 2 weeks, 2 months, and 2 years of your life. And how you can fix these issues, the sufficient resources and more is 1, create a LinkedIn presence. Create a LinkedIn profile and start following 20 professionals in your desired industry. If you see someone who has a job that you think is interesting, has a presence that you think is interesting, follow them. Doesn't mean you have to connect. You just follow them. It's quite an interesting LinkedIn, and it just means that you're going to see what they post and do so that you can learn their tricks of the trade. You can see if they post a job and more, and it'll allow you to engage in industry relevant content. You'll also want to establish clear career objects and plan to achieve them. So one thing you should really do is out your job search day. For me, I always pick Sunday. So I try to identify X jobs, ideally 15, and that I will apply to for the week. And then 15 is beautiful. 15 divided by 5 is 3. So then I just apply to 3 jobs each and every day, Monday through Friday. And you're just making it specific. You have the long resume, and then you're culling it or cultivating it to be very custom to that opportunity. But if you don't set a goal, then you might only apply to 1 job that week. And trust me, I already told you have, on average, usually 5% of applications convert. So remember, just always take 5% of the number of applications and that is the number you should be getting interviews. Not 100%, 5%. And so it means that you are going to have to apply to a lot more jobs than you get interviews. So as I said, this is the conversion rate. So if you need 100 job ads, you need 4 interviews, you want a job, right? So you should aim for 2 to 5% application conversion rate, meaning 2 to 5% of the jobs you apply for turn to an interview. You should expect to have 25% success rate in interviews. So if you need interviews to potentially get a job, you can work backwards, right? You want a job, you need a 25% success rate, so you need 4 interviews, and you should expect 2 to 5% conversion. If you're doing customized strategic job applications, you'll need 100 jobs. And that is the math you do. So you should set a goal for yourself and just keep a tracker. Like I said, as simple as an Excel sheet. There are apps that track job applications, or even LinkedIn will show you the jobs that you apply for, and track who and what you applied for and the outcomes to determine the success rates. And then make sure you show which resume you used to apply. And maybe you say, okay, well, this didn't work. I added a header or this, right? Look at what's going wrong and adjust it to make it what's going right. And then always follow up, potentially the ones you write to the hiring manager after you get more interviews. Well, start writing to all hiring managers after, right? There's multiple ways that you can do this, but there is a very simple equation to figure out how many jobs to apply to. And then you look at it weekly, daily, and then set yourself a goal and set yourself own to that. If you have difficulty finding relevant jobs to apply to, what's probably happening is 1, you're underutilizing your networks. Once again, you could just follow a bunch of people in. The most job postings that I see are not posted to the job board, but they are just in a conversation on LinkedIn. There are even people whose whole LinkedIn presence now are just selecting other jobs to post and advertise. And then you follow them, and weekly they give you a round of greatest jobs. You don't even have to do a lot of work these days. You just have to follow that person, and on Friday check, and then you're like, oh, wow. I follow this person because they work in international education, workforce development. They posted 40 jobs and they all align to me. So if you want a job in front-end development and data, follow people who are rounding up jobs, and you'll get more opportunities. You might not be optimizing job boards. You haven't made job boards work for you. So sign up for automated updates and job shares. Start liking jobs on LinkedIn, and then LinkedIn will show you more jobs like the jobs you liked. It can be a really powerful tool. But it can only be powerful if it has the data to know what you're looking for. And that only comes from you interacting and engaging with that. You might have ineffective use of job tools, a narrow search of the criteria limiting your opportunities, or lack of awareness. You also might have, if you want to fix it, you want network engagement. So actively engage with your network, especially on LinkedIn. Automate your job searches. So once again, start liking things or set up a filter and have it just send you the job searches every Monday so that you have it, right? Follow 50 people who have the job you want, keyword filters, and broaden your job search. If you apply to jobs but do not get invited to a first interview, what's probably happening is you have a generic resume. If you have not customized it to each and every job description, you will not get selected. Point blank, can't happen. Application materials are not passing the applicant tracking
Jillian,
system.
sorry, I just want to
Yeah.
highlight that this is one of the questions we've had here and the comments that I see going on in the chat, right? That many participants are sharing precisely. I'm applying to many jobs, but I don't get to the interview stage, right?
Yeah, of course. Well, I can see a couple. So as a major, I applied to 40 jobs in 3 months last year and didn't make it to an interview. Whew, you did not apply to enough jobs. That should have happened in 3 weeks, right? 15 jobs in a week. So if you apply to 40 jobs, what you'll really want to think about is, one, did you apply to the right type of jobs? A lot of people think they have a degree, so they deserve this job. You have a degree, so you have 0 years of experience. You have an internship, you have 0 years of experience. So you're in an entry-level job. Now you need to apply with a custom resume that really shows your skills, listed out specifically 10 skills. What kind of career you want in the future, you need an objective statement and work experience. And then what you want to do is see how that aligns to the job description and map it over perfectly. You want to compare the job description with your resume and make sure you are putting the most relevant and aligned information at the top. I always say this, and this is really hard for learners. Your resume and CV is not your life history. It is not your history of your work experience. It is not your biography. It is a highlight reel of the most relevant experience that aligns to your resume. That's really important. Now, it means that you're going to highlight things. So if you look at Alba Gaddadi's question of like customization, CV for 100 applications, that's really tiring. Well, no, I have a resume and I look at the job description. This job description is really focused on communication and project management. So I put those outcomes of my current role at the top. All I did was change the order, and I've now customized it to make sure that when the reviewer reads the resume, I didn't leave all the details at the bottom, because a resume reviewer has 10 seconds, 10 whole seconds to look at your resume, right? So I put everything at the top. Did I change my whole? No. Did I just move 2 bullets to the top? Absolutely. There's another one where I'll have just 20 bullets created for a job. And then I'll look at the job description and I go, what 5 bullets of this align most of the job description? And I just delete the other 15. They're already created. I already worked really hard one Sunday, did the best, longest resume. And now I'm just shortening it down and putting it in the right order to customize to the job description. It's not new content every time. It's not you changing your experience every time. It's just you making it, your information, the easiest to find in this stack of applications. And then if you also are not getting invited, really the best thing that you can do is, if your resume is the nicest, top notch, and once again, still has to be customized, the challenge is your network, right? Are you reaching out to your hiring manager? Are you following up your applications with an email or a LinkedIn message? What are you doing that shows value? And I get a lot of emails, like I get a LinkedIn message the other day and they're like, hi, I'm Toby. I've applied to this role. Oh, okay, Toby, I'm glad you applied to this role. What value did you just share with me other than that you applied? 100 other people applied. What made you special? Had you said, hey, Jillian, I just saw your post about this. It really resonated with me and makes me excited about virtual internships because I have experience here and I just applied to this role. I've been considering it, right? These are the kind of things that you need to consider, right? So what value are you showing? I know jobs are hard, and the hardest thing about it is you have this career plan and you have this passion and you have a job for you. But technically in the job search, it's all about showing what you can do for them. And that's a hard thing to put first, right? The resume and more. And so if you are not getting if you're applying to many jobs and not getting to a first interview, one, you're not optimizing for your ATS. You really need to do that. There's checkers. We have a full guide. Mirka can send it to you afterwards. You're not customizing to audience optimize. You might not do targeted applications. So once again, I've had it where I look in my application tracking system and I have 3 jobs posted and they're different jobs. And I see that the same person has applied to all 3 jobs. Now you would assume that the person, the hiring manager, would be like, well, this person's a good candidate. I'll interview them for this one job. No, that's not what happens. I look at them and say, well, they don't really know what they want. I don't even know if they want the job that they applied for because they applied to 3. So I'm not going to interview them at all. And I know that's crazy, but in other big companies, if you apply to more than 3 jobs in a span of time, they literally just lower your resume. This can happen at Meta, this can happen at Google, all these big companies. And at little companies, since there's tinier, they can see it just very easily. Like, hey, you've just compared and contrast and you've applied to every job. It doesn't mean that I'm special. You haven't shown me a job that I'm special, that this is what you really want, nor that you customized it. And because you applied to everything, instead you'll get nothing. So you really want to be targeted about where you apply to, who you apply to, and what job, making sure at a company you don't just apply to every open job because you like the company. If you really like the company and you want to work for them, that is not the way to get a job. What you want to do is follow them on LinkedIn, follow some of the professionals on LinkedIn, and then reach out to somebody from that company for an informational interview. We also have guides on that. Connect with them, start talking and ask about how to get a job, and then continue networking with that company while only applying to the jobs that are most relevant to your skills. You want to network utilization and direct outreach. All of these things can greatly, greatly help you. And so this can be very useful. And Andre, as you said, many times you copied the job description below and put how I was in each requirement. That's a brilliant way for customization. And once again, you don't have to go alone. When I applied for jobs, I was creating it on Microsoft Word and I had to create my own bullet points and everything. There are so many tools now that will literally read the job description for you and be like, you know, these are the most important things for you. When I used to have to print it out with a highlighter, be like, I think this is most important. There are literal computers that they'll tell you that and then help you say, like, if this is most important, you should show experience here, and they'll help you customize it. So it is very achievable to do customization. And if you don't think it's achievable and you're like, well, no, I'm just going to continue applying with the one resume, you can do that. You are the owner of your job application search. You need to do what you feel confident. But if you find no results or improvement, then you might need to take a step back and come at it a different way. If you've been invited to many first interviews but didn't progress further, what's probably happening is inadequate questions. You're not asking enough or the right questions at the interview. Remember, interviews are a two-way conversation. And when I interview someone, have a full rubric at the bottom that says questions they ask me. And I grade people the questions that they ask me. And that's not, when do I start? How much money am I going to make? They're really strategic questions to find out about the company, about myself, and about the role. So you be only preparing to answer questions and not preparing the 5 questions you should ask. You might have misaligned passions, and that's okay. But it does happen. I've done it before where I went into an interview. This is when I was just starting and I was in an interview for a communications role. And I talked all about my passions for specifically marketing, branding. And they were like, you actually had skills in communication, but you were so passionate about branding. We didn't think the role was right for you because it didn't have a lot of branding. I talked myself that role, right? I was passionate about branding, but at the time I just wanted a job. I'm going to be honest with you. I wanted the communications job. And had I just thought a little bit more about how my answers aligned directly to the job description, not my passion up here, I could have gotten it. I'm not saying to dilute your passions, but if you want this job, you truly want it, make sure that when you talk about something, it's aligned specifically to the job you're applying to. You're not going on other tangents of what you want, because remember, it's a very tiny window of opportunity the interviewer has to see you. It's only 30 minutes or an hour. So everything in that spoken hour is just assumed to be the full expanse of your life. So you want to be as specific and aligned to the job description. You might have lack of examples. You might have given answers, but not shown how you actually delivered that in the workplace, those star answers. You might not relate the answers back to the company. Okay, how this is what I did in this company, and this is how it will help me succeed in your company. And you have no follow-up. Write a thank you note after an interview. I know it's not mandatory, but they've done tons of research on that. And recruiters who receive a thank you letter for an interview are 65% more likely to recommend the candidate for a second interview. It's personal, they make him feel touched, and you can add a couple things like, nice about a thank you letter is if you answered a question and you're like, oh, I wanted to say something a little different. In the follow-up thank you letter, shouldn't long, but you could just be like, once again, I want to reiterate my commitment to blah, blah, blah. I talked about it here, and I think I left off this. And you can add a little clear and fix that answer that was bothering you. Once again, not a long one. You only have a little window, but you can do that. And that's the greatness of a thank you letter. So you can fix it preparing questions, aligning those interests, right? So always research the company, who the interviewer is, and the industry, and align to that. Provide specific examples, tie your answers back to the role. A lot of times we teach the STAR method, situation, task, action, results. I usually say start, situation, task, action, result, tie it back to the company. To really kind of make you sure that you painted the picture of how you are the best candidate for the role, and send a thank you note. And then the final round stage, it might just be not the right fit. I recently went through this. It happens all the time. You might just not be it. There could be just really high competition, or the biggest one could have happened is you might lack a unique value proposition, a UVP. It's used a lot. You talk about like, what does my product have? What does the company have that is unique value proposition? It sells it. USP is also the unique selling proposition. This is what sets you apart from other candidates. A UVP is crucial for showing how your specific combination of skills, experience, and personal attributes makes you uniquely suited to the role. It's done in personal branding and is really important. And it's a way that you can really stand out and have that. So once again, you want to showcase your unique value position. You want to align answers to the company's specific needs and culture. You want to send that thank you and follow up. And if you haven't been selected, make sure you say, great, it was great interviewing you. I love learning about the company. Keep me in mind for other roles. Because what can happen is I, as a recruiter, don't want to do the whole interview process again if another job pops up. I might just be like, oh, I interviewed Henry and I didn't pick him, but he was this close. Let's just go with Henry this time. And it has happened. It's happened with me and my company in hiring and more. You can maintain and expand your network and express opportunities. Now, I have talked so much, so sorry, but don't worry. I do have time to answer these other questions. So I do want to make sure that everything is good. So feel free to raise your hand if you would like to ask a question. But I do see Katemwe has asked CGPA employers looking for. So I'm guessing it's your point average. Let me know if this is a different thing that you're looking for.
Jillian, I have two questions that I'm surprised because they're quite similar from two different people. Someone asked, I would like to know how much CGPA value will take for employability. And someone else is asking, what exactly is a CGPA, which we understand is the college average, right? Yeah. Employer looking for from a graduate who has done an internship before. Is this important?
Yeah. So let me know if it's not GPA, but your college grade point, how well you do in your grades. Take a deep breath. I'm going to tell you something. Doesn't matter. Oh no, I know. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. Your degree matters, your network matters, and your past experience matters. Most companies are even dropping the requirement. Many have dropped the GPA requirement. It can sometimes be used in applications for big companies. They really just want to, they're getting 20,000 applications. They only have 2 jobs and they just want to weed it out really quickly. I have never listed my PA on my resume. Never. And I've always gotten my job. I would not look for a GPA in the jobs that I post, nor ever asked as a requirement. So really the ultimate thing is, are you good? And I can read that verbally, right? I can read that in an application. I can read your skills in an interview, and I can see it on the job. And if it's a really structured hirement like the UK, where it's harder for at-will employment, I might do an assessment and more. But really, the problem is there's just a ton of applications happening, right? It's easy to apply to a job these days. You can just press a button. And one person just told me, like, hey, I applied to 100 jobs and never changed my resume. So you just went bing, 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 bing. That's very simple. So if everyone bing, 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 it means me, the recruiter, isn't getting this many resumes, which I used to in the 90s. I'm now getting that many resumes. So there's so many that I need a way to cull it down to an achievable number that I can look at, that I'm not going to spend hours on just this much, right? And so one way I do that is applicant tracking, and look at the keywords. So I look at your resume and the job description, and I find keywords match. And I give you a score, 67%. And maybe I put my applicant tracking system and say, I only want applicants that have a 75% match. And that's going to be important to me. Others, I might just want a network or a referral. So basically everybody applies, but I only look at the people who have that application referral and only expand to the wider base when I don't have enough, right? So those things can change. Now, if you have a good GP, put it on your resume. After 2 years, your work experience now matters far more, and please remove it. But it doesn't have to be this end all thing. If the company asks you for your GPA specifically, be very honest. But ultimately, a letter from a professor, experience and more, is much, much higher rated. In fact, NACE, the National Association of Colleges and Employers in America, have done research for the past 10 years. And they've always said, when looking at 2 candidates for a job, what are the most important things? Internship experience is number 1. Is degree. Is where they went to school. Is GPA, and other things. So the most important thing is that interview work is why? Because it's so much better than a classroom. I have had so many people who are really good students, amazing students, terrible workers. They can ace the syllabus. They can't show activity, initiative, or adaptability. Because remember, a course is very refined and confined, right? You get a syllabus and you know exactly the due dates, you know how to get an A, you get a B. It's very structured. And so when you put into the real world, some of those people who are amazing students falter because in the real world, you have to be so adaptable and amenable and flexible and agile, all the while not waiting for someone to come to you, but always coming to them. And that can stop on their tracks. And so work experience, true real experience, whether you show that through projects, you can do a portfolio, doing an internship or more, is usually the number one marker of success.
Amazing. We have another question from someone. They're asking, you mentioned texting interviewers, emailing them after an interview, thanking them for their time and everything. I had an interview 2 weeks back with the help of my school and virtual internships. The interview was a success, but I forgot to email back even though they emailed. My first virtual meeting comes next Monday. Should I bring it up and apologize?
No. So it's okay. If you got the position with virtual internships or you got the position, you don't need to go back and retroactively thank them, right? That's okay. But you never want to text an employer. You always want to email, right? So text is getting to a point where a lot of companies use text like WhatsApp or WeChat and more in their day-to-day work environment. But a lot of companies actually don't, because it blurs the line of personal and professional. So a lot of companies will only use their professional modes, which is email, telephone, and their internal communication like Slack or Teams, and is used for other things. So never text an employer. I would find that very, very jarring. But emails, yes, is a great thank you. But if it's in the past, don't worry. But in the future, just remember, a thank you can actually go a long way. Personal can go a long way. I have gotten a job before where the CEO, the day I was hired, literally was like, yeah, I'm so excited Rebecca hired you. Just so you know, you weren't the first choice based on the criteria, the rubric, but she had a gut feeling and she picked you. And that's very weird for a CEO to tell. That's very open. He was just a very blunt CEO, but it felt like I had connected with Rebecca enough that she advocated and helped me get that job. That was a personal connection, and it was a gut feel. Weird, and it doesn't always happen, but it can show that like sometimes people put barriers of rubrics, GPAs, and more, but they really just want that connection. And one of the ways that you can always connect is a thank you note where you say, hey, it was great to learn about your company. I'm more excited about this. And also, it was lovely to learn about the book you're reading because you asked something personal, right? There's a connection, and that can be very, very useful.
Amazing. We have so many comments. Lori, yeah, some people need to leave, but Lori left a very nice message that I want to share with everyone because this is really nice. And the message says, maybe you want to share the slide. Okay, that's one. That's good. We also have. Okay, so Lori said, even though I'm currently employed, this is so amazing, the whole webinar, right? Having been in the workforce for over 50 years, everything you are saying about staying up to date is very important. And I want to highlight this comment because one thing that your webinar has brought me is a little bit of expectation management, because now that I know all these numbers about how the job market works and how I should approach my research and also what I should expect, if now I know that 5% of actually applications go into an interview, then I can have a better expectation and also manage my patience and my anxiety. So I think that this makes it really interesting. The power also of having ourselves the tools to be in charge of our job search, right? And this is what being career ready means, right? To be able to navigate everything with more tools. And we have many love messages. Thank you guys for everything you're sharing. Jillian, do you want to maybe wrap up? And
yes. First of all, once again, by attending here, you are making yourself more hireable and employable. You are showcasing your proactivity and initiative, and that is brilliant. There are hundreds of learners on our program right now, and 30 of you chose to give us your time today, and that makes all the difference. I want to say also thank you for staying 10 minutes later. I think it's amazing and brilliant. And I really want to wrap up, but Andre asked a really good question, so I'm just going to quickly Andre, in my case, I had during college to write assignments and case studies about Tesla and other companies. This is more relevant to put on my GPA than GPA on CV and LinkedIn. Yes. Honestly, the weirdest thing happens with college graduates. They do all this work experience and then they do these case studies and projects, and then I put my degree on my resume. You know, well, that's great. Do you know how many kids graduated with you? 1,000. So they all put their degree on their resume too. So how did you differentiate yourself, right? But if you put your degree and say, these are the 4 most relevant courses I did during my degree. And in fact, here's the 2 most relevant projects I did and the success that I had, that is more impactful than your GPA will ever be. Because if you showed that you did a brand audit and marketing strategy and you're applying for digital media, maybe you don't have digital marketing experience, but you've shown that you did it in your course. And you've done it differently than the class who also graduated with the same degree and took the same course. And that is all the importance. You differentiated yourself. Remember, you graduated with 100, 1,000, 10,000 other people who can all put a degree on their resume. That's not a differentiator. So what is going to make you different when you apply? It's those projects, it's those work experience, those clubs, extracurriculars, certificates, and skills. If you have any other questions, feel free to reach out. We can send a couple guides through, and we also just did another webinar about making your resume and CV really customized to the application, which we can also send a link to, I believe. So we can send a hefty email after, and please continue to join these events, and really, really appreciate you for giving me all your time, question, energy today. I really appreciate it.
Excellent, Jillian. Remember, everyone, specific questions about your program, please reach out to our colleagues, intern support. And Jillian, just one last question, because I think this is a very interesting one. Someone is saying, I usually can find the human resources person in the webpage, but I'm not sure if this is the hiring manager in the company. Any strategies to reach this person, or should I just write a generic motivation letter, or how should I manage this, deal with this?
You should never be generic. So even if you're applying to someone who's not the hiring manager, you can still stand out. Like I said, oftentimes at my company, I'm not the hiring manager, and I'll get emails. And trust me, if the email impresses me, I will go in and find it. Our most recent salesperson applied to the job, but it was a general resume and they weren't selected. But they reached out to me, and I was not hiring a salesperson. I don't manage sales. And they reached out to me and just said, hey, I applied to this role. I'm very excited about this experience. I would love just an informational interview. And they were very detailed about what they had alignment to. They really showed alignment to the mission of the company, not just to the job. And I was like, sure, I'll give you 15 minutes. And when I had that conversation, I went back and I was like, oh my gosh, somebody missed this resume. They were great. I put them at the top of the pile. We then did the interview and they're hired. But they were missed by the recruiter. They were missed by the hiring manager. But because they reached out, but they reached out really well, it worked out. So really put the content into it, right? Make sure that you have 1 to 2 statements of how you are relevant to the role, 1 statement about how your passion aligns with that mission, and then feel free. LinkedIn is an open book of posts and whatnot. Feel free to make it personal. If the hiring manager is somebody as an HR, just talk about what they've been doing or something. You can add personal touches, but it's okay if they aren't the ultimate person. They might receive tons or hundreds because they're hiring, so they might not respond, or you really resonate and it'll really stand out. We do keep track of people who reach out to us. There's been other times where I have a job posting and I go to my CEO and I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to hire someone. I'm so stressed. And my CEO will be like, oh, well, 5 people reached out to me in the last month and I thought they were really good. We just weren't hiring. Do you want those applications? And I'll take it. And once again, I didn't get a positive reaction from my CEO, but all of a sudden I reached out to them and they got the job later. And I never posted the job. Let me be very clear. I just hired the network, and that network wasn't that tight-knit best friends of my CEO. It was just 5 people who randomly reached out to my CEO, but gave a good enough message that resonated. So it's more about resonating with your audience than who you're always contacting, even though you could spend hours trying to research who the hiring manager is and more, and is trying to make it more obvious who the hiring manager is.
Amazing. So I'm sharing your LinkedIn account so our participants can send you a connection request. Please practice best practices and send a message so you can say, hi, Jillian, I was a participant in your webinar. I loved it. Thanks for being in touch. So Jillian knows where you are writing from, because otherwise, why she should argue. So send please this message, and remember, I will send you also an email with the wonderful slides Jillian created for us, and you will also have this survey so you can complete it, and then we track your assistance, and then you can earn your certificate. So thank you very much, everyone, and I wish you a wonderful day. Thank you for being here with us. Thanks for staying a little bit longer, because we want to absorb, right, everything that Jillian knows. So I'm happy she could say a little bit more to answer our questions. So thank you very much. See you again in our next webinar. Be in the lookout for our new invitation, and this email I will send you so you can share your feedback, and we will send you the slides. Thank you very much, and have a wonderful day, wherever you are in the world. Bye, Jillian. Bye, everyone.